Okay, welcome TA students. My name is Michelle Christie. I'm the Program Manager for Vocational Education and Training, and I manage the TA course. Tonight we're going to be doing a Study Period 1 online tutorial, and I just had a few students in the last couple of weeks asking if I could touch on the assessment requirements in the third and the fourth portfolio. So that's 31475/05 and 31475/06. But once I've finished this short little presentation and just go through those requirements, it's going to be an open session, so you can ask me any questions and you can speak to each other. I'll unmute you and we can all have a chat. As I'm presenting this presentation, if you want to ask a question, feel free to do so in the chat function in the GoToMeeting control panel, and I'll be able to answer your questions. Wayne's saying he's not got a mic at the moment. Just going to ask, can you hear us okay? So feel free to use the chat function as I discuss the assessment requirements, and then, as I said, you can ask me as many questions as you like about Study Period 1 after that short presentation. Okay, so Study Period 1. Okay, what we're going to be covering is the two assessments, so 31475/05 and 31475/06. So it's Portfolio 3 and Portfolio 4 in Study Period 1. Okay, so when you enrolled into Study Period 1, you actually see that there are 6 assessments. So you've got 2 quizzes, and these can be open book. Students then start on the Portfolio 1, which is 31475/03, then move on to 31475/04. And these 2 assessments flow into each other. And then from there, we have 31475/05 and 31475/06. And these are the 2 assessments that we'll be discussing today. Okay, so students might be looking at this assessment for 31475 and go, hang on, am I missing something? Doesn't this look familiar or similar to something I've already done? And that sometimes I get questions, should I just submit the assessment again? The answer is no. The reason you're actually undertaking 2 different assessments that look very similar is you have to follow the same process twice. Under the 2 units of competency that you're actually undertaking, you're actually required to complete or design 2 learning programs that meet clients' needs and use training packages as well. So it's not that we don't trust you, it's the fact that the unit of competency actually requires you to create 2 different learning programs. So you're not missing anything, there is a rhyme in that reason. Okay, so let's have a look at Portfolio 3, which is 31475/05. Okay, so at first you need to think about what are you going to focus on. Now, in the first portfolio, 31475/03, we did encourage you to use case studies. And we have case studies there that you can use all the information and design a program relating to a qualification. Now, this assessment, whilst you are following the same process again, we do encourage you to use your own vocational competency. So if you've got a background in construction or health or business or hairdressing, whatever you've got a background in, use that as part of your assessment. Now, you can base your learning program on a business that you're aware of. So you can use your current or previous workplace or another business of choice. And with this one, you do get a little bit of choice. So you can choose to develop a learning program for an entire qualification. or a unit of competency or a skill set or an accredited course. So you've got a bit of flexibility here. But whatever qualification or units of competency that you're actually using, make sure you're using the most current from the TGA website. And I get questions regularly saying, okay, I'm using Open Colleges as the RTO, as you've suggested, because you can access our policies and procedures. But what if the qualification or the unit of competency or the skill set I'm wanting to design isn't on Open Colleges' scope of registration? I'll say to students, don't worry about it. Whether it's on our Open Colleges' scope or not, just use whatever you want to use. Don't feel like you have to just use what's on our scope. As I said, in this slide, it says, in reality, a course designer would adhere to the scope of registration. But for the purposes of your assessment, it really is more important for us to see that you can follow policies and procedures. And we won't be checking if that qualification or unit of competency or skill set is actually on scope. So don't worry, you can still just use Open Colleges as your RTO, as you are the course designer, but choose any training package document that you like. Okay, so when we look at the first step in Portfolio 3, it says you actually need to conduct an interview. Okay, so you actually need to speak to somebody else. And that could be someone in your workplace or in your previous workplace or a previous client maybe, or a colleague. Or you need to role play with somebody who's taking the role of that client. And you will be asking them, different questions to find out what kind of training and assessment that's needed for the staff. And so when what you need to do is look at Appendix 1 and capture that conversation between yourself and another person. Okay, and so I get questions sometimes that, can I use the same client that I used in 31475/03? And yes, you can use the same client. But what I do stress is you need to use a different target group, okay, different learners. And these learners should have different skill gaps. I don't want to see, the same, unit of competency that you used from assessment or Portfolio 1. It should be quite different. Different people have different needs, and for the purposes of your assessment, it's good to have a bit of difference there. Okay, so step 2, after you've conducted that training conversation or consultation, training needs analysis, you need to choose your RTO. So you could be Open Colleges or you could use another one of choice. And exactly like you did in 31475/03, you can either upload these into a separate file, all the policies and procedures, or you can add all the hyperlinks. Either way is perfectly fine. From there, you need to look at the training.gov website and find 2 training package documents that suit the client. Now, a training package might be something like BSB, like business, business services package, or CHC, community services package, whatever training package you like. So have a look at that training package and find 2 documents that could suit the client. So, for example, if I conducted a consultation and the client said to me, right, I'm wanting to put a program together for my managers. We've got a few newbies in-house, and I want everyone to have a level playing field so that they can manage and lead and deal with all the HR and budgets, and they'll start spilling all these different things. So, so what you can do is actually look at training.gov and determine, okay, should I go with a qualification again, like I did in the first one? Is an accredited course better? Would a skill set suit the client, or could I just use maybe one or a couple of units of competency? Now, in that particular section, it's asking you to add the URL link. So go to training.gov, get the www and put that into the document, and then explain why you think this is relevant to your client. Then you also need to grab either the Word document or the PDF from that document. So whether that be the qualification, a skill set, or a unit of competency. So download that document from TGA and then upload that with your submission. Okay, so step 4 is about developing that learning program draft. Okay, so you need to use Appendix 2. And this is very similar. Some of the wording may have changed slightly, and some of the templates, it's kind of been amended a little bit. But you're following the same process again. So you're putting in this information like who's the stakeholders, what's the training needs information, what else is there? You're just starting to draft that learning program. From there, you need to write a short report, and this is a bit of a reflective piece, but it's also asking you some questions. So things like which training package best suits the client, and it's best to remember that a training package usually has 3 letters and maybe 2 numbers, or maybe not, just depends on the training package you're using. It doesn't have, whereas a qualification will have 3 letters and then about 5 numbers after it. So if you're looking at a code and it says 3 letters and 5 numbers, you're looking at a qualification. Okay, so if it's saying Cert 4 in blah, Cert 3 in something else, Advanced Diploma in something, that's a qualification. You need to go and find the parent training package that qualification or unit of competency or skill set belongs to. So it usually will have 3 letters, and sometimes it will have 2 numbers. Okay, and then talk about what you'd suggest for the client. It would be good to talk about the Industry Skills Council that manages this training program or package. That being said, there is Industry Skills Councils were recently dissolved. We now have Service Standards Organisations, or SSOs, and I've put a list in Study Period 1 as to who actually manages which training package. These companies are fairly fledgling at the moment, so you won't find a lot of information on their website, whereas the Industry Skills Councils used to have a lot of information. So whether you go back to the old Industry Skills Councils information, that's okay, but yeah, if you can use the list from, in the additional resource section. You're explaining why do we need to conduct or develop this program? You know, what's actually occurred within the organisation for them to require training? And what's the purpose? What are the main job roles covered by this training package? So that could be actually quite broad. It might not just be the qualification or the unit of competency that you're going to be developing. It's more so, what are some other job roles? What are some other qualifications that are within that training package? And then if there's any regulatory or codes of practice that are relevant to the implementation of your program. From there, you're actually developing your learning program plan. So you're building on what you did in Appendix 2. Some of this information will be similar because you're actually going from one step to the next. So you're outlining things like the duration, the time frame. You need to give the program a nice name. And from an RTO's perspective, if you just write, say, BSB 51915, Diploma of Leadership and Management, chances are you're not just going to be developing and delivering one program at a time. So sometimes we put a bit of a name around it. And in this case, I've put Bosses Are Us, which is a client I've made up, and I've called it the Leadership Program. And I've put in brackets BSB 51915, so we know which training package document or qualification we're using. So there'll be different components within this program, and you would have followed this process in 31475/03. So you're just following the same process, just with different clients, different target learners. Okay, so that wraps up portfolio 3. Now we can have a look at portfolio 4. So first step is you need to create a learning resource. So it could be a PowerPoint, keynote, Prezi slides, handout activity. You've got a bit of flexibility in the learning resource. Students sometimes question, how do you submit that with your submission? OpenSpace allows up to 10 files to be submitted at one time. So if you're creating a PowerPoint or a handout or activity, name it as a separate file and upload it as a separate file in your submission would be my suggestion. When you're developing a learning resource, you might be looking at one or multiple units of competency, and you might just choose maybe an elective from that chosen unit, and you're developing some content that is based on the unit. And you might add some pictures or find a video that you want to add, or you might have references that you're wanting to include, but don't just cut and paste the unit of competency into the PowerPoint or the activity or handout. Actually start building on that. So use that as a basis, but then actually put in some proper content. Okay, so from there we actually need to do what's called unpacking a unit. So we're actually analysing the unit of competency, making sure it meets the client's needs, so that we understand what we're actually working with. Now, at the moment, we actually have 2 different unit of competency structures, and it depends on whether the unit comes from a qualification in the old training package. So the training package structure was actually developed in the late 90s, and the first lot of actual nationally recognised training packages were endorsed in 1998. So we're talking about 18 years ago. And so for a very long time, all of us vet practitioners have been using the same structure. But the endorsing body a couple of years ago, so at the time it was the National Skills Standards Council, actually developed a new, what's called a streamlined training package structure. So you will find, depending on the qualification or the units of competency you use, you'll find that the structure is a little bit different. Now, the tip-off as to whether you're using the old or whether you're using the new will depend on the unit of competency. Now, if it said something like BSB WOR 402A, okay, so it's got an A at the end, that's kind of tipping me off that it's the old training package structure. Okay, so it belongs to the BSB training package. WOR is the industry field identifier, and it relates to workplace relationships. 402 is, it belonged originally to a AQF 4 qualification, and 02 is it's the second unit of competency in the workplace relationships at a Cert 4 level qualification. And then the A is the version control. So it went from an A to a B to a C to a D, depending on how many updates they had in the training package. If you're looking at the streamlined package, you might just see that same code, but the A has been dropped. So it might just say BSB WOR 402. And that will basically tell you. When you're looking at the unit though, there's actually differences in the component. So what was called the application of unit and the descriptor is now just the application. Those 2 parts have been merged together. The elements are the same, the performance criteria are the same. The critical aspects have now been called performance evidence, and we also have the assessment conditions in there. So it'll stipulate how and where and what else is there? Any requirements relating to that assessment. Then we've got required skills is now called foundation skills. And what they've put together is the Australian Core Skills Framework. So that's all the language literacy and numeracy skills, and also the core skills for work. So things like navigating the world around them, interacting with others. I can't remember the third one off the top of my head. And then you've got the required knowledge, which is now called knowledge evidence. One thing they've taken away from the streamlined training package is the range statement. So before, if you look at an old training package unit, within the performance criteria, it might have bolded words, and those bolded words would be expanded in the range statement, and it might say workplace health and safety would include A, B, C, D, E, where they've actually taken that out now, and you can put your own ideas as to those elements or what the meaning is of the unit. I'm hoping this is making sense. Okay, so when you're unpacking the unit, all you need to do is cut and paste the unit of competency into the template. You don't need to reword it, okay? You don't worry about plagiarism. The thought behind this is you are a course designer, you work at a RTO. So your RTO would have this qualification or this unit of competency or skill set already on scope, so you are able to use them. And a lot of the time, especially when you're looking at learning materials, we have to abide by what's in the training.gov website. So we don't tend to change a lot of things. So it's okay to cut and paste from training.gov into your assessment. You do not have to reference them. Okay, so you're basically cutting and pasting into the unit, from the unit into the template, and then you need to write an explanation as to why this is relevant. Now, depending on your unit of competency, you either need to complete Appendix 1A or Appendix 1B. You don't have to do both. I've had a few students that have come to me and said, okay, I'm working on Appendix A, what do I do for 1B? And it's like, you don't. If you've done 1A, don't worry about 1B. If you've done 1B, don't worry about 1A. You don't have to do both. Okay, from there, we've got another short report, and it's asking you some additional questions about the learning program, about unpacking, about checking about up-to-date training package information, about personal and communication skills, about the AQF, and that's an important thing to remember. So what we teach at a Cert 1 level is very different to how we teach at a Cert 4 level or an advanced diploma. The AQF requirements or they're very different. And if you haven't looked at the AQF yet, you can have a look at aqf.edu.au or have a look in Study Period 1. I have the AQF handbook available for you in the additional resources. And then also about benchmarks and competency-based training and assessment. So there's a few things to answer there. From there, you've got to do what's called contextualization, and this does tend to freak a few people out because they don't quite understand why we're doing it. The reason we contextualize is because the developer of a training package has actually developed qualifications and units of competency to meet an entire industry. Now, if you think about your workplace, what you do say will be very different from another workplace down the road or in a different state. Everyone has differences. So what we're actually doing is tweaking, okay? I think that's a much easier word to understand. You're actually changing a word, okay? Now, when we're changing a word, we want something that's a bit like a synonym, okay? Something that's very similar. So what you're actually wanting to do, so I've got an example here where I've changed the word customer to guest. And this particular unit of competency relates to customer service. And the particular client is a hotel. So they don't use the word customer, they use the word guest. That's the terminology. And if we don't tweak or contextualize a unit, the chances are we develop materials and the trainer or assessor will go out into the field and start talking to these students, and we might get them a bit offside if we're not using their terminology. So we might tweak something that makes sense to them. We don't have to change everything. All you have to do is maybe 1 or 2 changes. So look at a performance criteria, for example, and just make one word change. So directly after the word you want to change, put a bracket, put the word, end the bracket, bold it or underline it, or even italicize it, whatever you want to do. But that will let the trainer or your assessor know that's the word you're actually wanting to change. Okay, the advice from the contextualization can either come from training.gov or from the companion volume or from the streamlined training package document. So there's a companion volume there. Basically, at the end of the day, that advice usually says we can't take a performance criteria out of a unit. We can't add a new one in that we'd like, but we can change words as long as we're not taking away from its original intent, which is why I say think of it like a synonym. From there, you actually need to find a resource. Okay, so a learning designer will either develop resources in-house, which is why we've asked you to develop a handout or a PowerPoint or an activity. But they'd also need to find learning materials. So sometimes we either develop it in-house or we get an educational publisher and purchase resources off the shelf. Now, there's actually quite a lot of different educational publishers out there, and I have a forum post about it so you can see a list of different publishers out there. But you're wanting to find a resource. It could be a textbook or a learner guide or some assessment materials, an activity. Outline your RTO. What's the name of the resource? So, for example, if I'm developing this management program for Bosses Are Us, I might use this Wiley book on management, big thick book, and I'm actually outlining, do I like it, would I use it, that kind of thing. And that's something to think about in your program. So it doesn't mean that we have to buy it. There are a lot of free samples that you can view online. So my suggestion would be choose a unit of competency within your program, do a Google search for the name and also the word workbook, for example, and you will find some resources come up, or search for the forum post about educational publishers and start looking at each of those websites and you'll be able to find some things. From there, you actually need to get feedback. Now, students sometimes ask, is it feedback on my draft, like on the learning program I've just designed, or is it feedback if we're imagining that the program has already been implemented and it's the final debrief? It's actually the first. You're wanting to get feedback on your learning program plan. Okay, if you're working in an RTO and you're developing a program for a client, they need final sign-off before we actually implement. So you're actually wanting to discuss this. So get your actual client, the person that you had an interview with, or who you did the role play with, and get them to give you some feedback on potential improvements. And it might be something like, you know, the duration needs to change, or you've added a unit of competency and you prefer it changed to something else, or one of the scheduled training dates needs to be a month later, or, you know, it could be on anything really on those improvements. And that Appendix 4 will capture that conversation. So that is that. Just go back to here. So I got a question throughout this presentation, and the question was, should I hand in the portfolios one at a time, or should I give them all at once in study period 1? My suggestion would be to stagger your submissions. Do the first portfolio, submit it, then get started on your second one. By then you'll get feedback. So the assessors should mark your assessment within 3 days, and you'll get some feedback on how to improve for the next one. TAE is all about crossing your T's and dotting your I's, so it's good to stagger it because you can always improve your grade. And you'll find once you've done one, do it in its entirety and then move on to the next one. When students do multiple things at once, that's where we tend to see there's a little bit of unclarity, whereas if you do one unit or one assessment in its isolation and then move on to something else, sometimes the assessments flow a little bit differently. So it's better to stagger than submit everything all at once. Now, I'm going to open up to you. You've got about half an hour. I'm just going to unmute everyone and you can start asking me questions, or you can start speaking to yourselves as a group. about anything you like. So we can talk about study period 1. So I'm just going to unmute everyone. Hopefully I don't get too much background noise. Oh.
Hello, Michelle.
Hello.
It's Tandy here. I have been away for work overseas and I just got back last week.
Okay.
And so I was working. Yeah, I haven't done portfolio 1 yet.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering if I will lose marks or
Oh,
anything like that.
no, definitely not. So the beauty with open colleges is we are an asynchronous RTO, which means
Yeah.
that this course is self-paced. So
Mm.
you are enrolled for 12 months, and how you
Yeah.
cut that cake, what you do in that 12 months period is up to you. So if you
Mm.
spend the first 2 or 3 months working on study period 1, that's okay. If you get study period
Oh,
1 done within a month, that's okay as well. Um, you won't definitely won't miss out on marks. This is what's called competency-based assessment. So what we're actually
yeah.
assessing is, do you have the knowledge and skills against the unit of competency?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So if I wanted to make reference to like what I need to do for portfolio 1, like
Yeah.
do I just go back to the tutorials, materials that we've done already?
Yeah, so we actually have, so we do a study period 1 tutorial every month. And the last few months, we've been focusing on the different assessments and the changes that we've had this year on those
Yeah.
assessments. So
Yeah.
feel free to have a look at those tutorials. We do go step through those assessments in depth. But if you have any questions as you're going through them, feel free to message us. That's what we're here for. You might think, oh, I don't want to ask. It's a silly question. It's actually not. We want you to have clarity. So feel free to ask us anything you need.
Okay. I'll do my best to kind of get that through
Sure.
probably before Friday next week.
Okay, sounds good. It's good to give yourself a goal
Yeah.
because that will get you into good habits too. But I wouldn't feel
Yeah.
bad about thinking that you're a little bit behind. I mean, everyone's very
Yeah.
different in this course, so you can't really
Yeah.
compare apples and with an orange.
Yeah.
So you find that some units might take a little bit longer, and others might go really quickly. So yeah,
Sure.
submit whenever you feel free.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. I've just put my webcam on, so if anyone would like to put their webcam on and have a chat. Oh, you just got me. Hello.
Hi.
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 Hi, Robert. Oh, you can talk now. Awesome.
Yeah. I worked out how to drive the meeting thing.
Oh, cool. It takes a little bit of time
And,
sometimes.
I've never used it before, so it's a bit more challenging than what I've been up to. I was just wondering, seeing as I've only sort of enrolled in the last few weeks, are we all sort of around the same rough area, or are we all over the shop, being that it is asynchronous?
Yeah, everyone's different. I mean, every day brings
Yeah.
on new students. So
Yeah.
I suppose I'll ask everyone else. When did you guys start?
For me, I started in Feb.
Okay.
Just yeah, just about early Feb. I got through the first quizzes pretty quickly, and then a bit of work commitment took me overseas just about April. So I've just come back last week, so I'm a bit behind.
Okay. I feel like I've left it not way too late, but I originally started my becoming a trainer journey in 2009.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
So I have a few old school qualifications that probably would cross over into this, but I'm just going to do it all from scratch, I think.
Understand. I
Might
mean,
as well.
there's been a few things that have changed in the last few years.
Yeah. Oh, I've still been working as a trainer,
Yeah, sure.
or as an assistant trainer, obviously, because I don't have the qualification
Okay.
completed to sign off on it. Hmm.
Great.
It's good to see we can do these sort of things because we can come from all over. So
Yeah, definitely. we definitely have a mixed bag in the TAE, and I think that's what makes it quite interesting because every day I can be looking at different units, different qualifications, and helping students out. So that's a cool thing about TAE, which you don't get in other qualifications when you teach it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'm still working on my first portfolio, so
Okay.
a lot of what's said tonight makes sense for when I get further down the track. But I'm working on that.
Sure.
Uh, so far, I haven't hit any major snags. I've just got to find. I'm trying to find the RTO details from my organisation. Being a government organisation, they don't like handing them over very easily, but I'll find them.
If not, you still can use open colleges. So when you log into Open Space in the student lounge, we do have our policies and procedures that you can download there. In study period 1 in the news forum, I've got a folder that has policies and procedures that can be downloaded as well. So it doesn't matter which RTO you use, as long as you are using an RTO in your assessment.
Okay, well, I feel like I've taken up enough time. That's my questions for the night.
Okay.
Good luck, everyone.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi.
It's Nadia. My webcam doesn't seem to be working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had problems when I Skype overseas and things too. For some reason, the setting says it should be on, but it's not.
I've just said stop it. So if you want to try again, it might work. Let's see.
No, I'm still a black face.
Oh, now we can see that screen.
Anyway, yeah, I'm not sure if you remember my name and the trouble I've caused.
Oh.
But I am trying, and I'm literally parked by the side of the road, and I'm in my van.
Oh, fantastic.
Wow.
That's right, you're doing a road trip around Australia. Remember that.
No, I'm not doing a road trip. I'm actually working in Sydney. So
okay.
Yeah. So I'm in the back of the van, and I saw your lovely setup that you put online about your study area.
Yes.
Which is a dream come true for me.
Cool.
But anyway, I have found that your information tonight's been terrific.
Great.
I have made some great progress on the 3147505.
Okay.
And I'm nearly ready to submit that.
Great.
Yeah, I was offered a job today, but I can't take it because I don't have the piece of paper. So that is inspiring to get going.
Yes.
But thank you for the information, and I've found that since you've changed it from the 6000 or whatever it was,
3006
format,
yeah,
the 31475 stuff, it has been a lot clearer and much more easily understood.
Been a long time coming. I'm so pleased because it's been amazing. Like a lot of students actually flying through study period 1 now, which is great. And we're finding like there's a lot more submissions than we've ever had. So I'm glad that you're finding it a lot clearer because that was the intent behind it. The way it's been written is you're a course designer, you're working for a business to business kind of situation, and you're developing customized learning programs for a particular client. And that's something that actually happens in reality. Like we've got a team of learning designers at open colleges, for example, and they're developing learning programs all the time. And I think that's the intention of the course, or that's the way I interpret the units of competency. So, it's been a labour of love to get study period 1 like updated and amended. But I'm really pleased that you're saying that you're finding it more clear.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That's okay. Okay, does anyone else have any questions, or you want to ask each other questions, or just have a conversation about study period 1?
It's gone so quick.
Where does everyone live?
Where does everyone live is the question?
Oh, I'm in Brisbane at the moment, but I am in transition. I'm hoping I can get a job in Sydney or some other parts of New South Wales. So I'm looking forward to that.
When are you looking at moving?
Anybody noticing?
In the next 3 months, Michelle. So it's a bit hectic.
I used to I grew up in Queensland and I moved to Sydney many years ago, and I
Really?
love Sydney. It's such a brilliant city.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That was a big move. Which part of Queensland did you live?
My parents are in Murrayfield, so up near Caboolture.
Okay.
So
Yep. I know where that is. Oh, wow. Yeah, so it'll be me very soon.
you'll enjoy it.
Yeah. I hope I will. I hope I will.
You will. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So that's the other reason why I'm doing the course as well, because I
great.
want to make that transition going into Sydney to
Great.
make use of the qualifications. Yeah.
Okay. So where is everyone else from? So Thandy's in Queensland.
Yeah.
I'm in
Nadine and
Woolhope, New
Maria.
South Wales.
Oh, hang on, Nadine and Robert, you both got in there at the same time. So Nadine,
Nadine,
Well, I actually have a house in Maruya.
Oh,
I came from Wollongong and I'm working in Sydney.
great.
okay.
all right. Well, I'm from Warhope, New South Wales, mid North Coast, near Port Macquarie. If anyone knows it.
Yep. I've
I
been
do. My
there.
daughter's studying paramedics in Port Macquarie.
Ah,
Yeah. Well, I probably work as a fire and rescue officer. I work with all the other emergency services in the area. So
Ah,
Hmm.
yeah. Well, she's been very involved in the recent triathlon.
yes,
And she's also doing a big promotion for the Red Cross blood donation service. She's actually
yes,
organised something through her university to encourage blood donations.
yeah. We've been involved with that a little bit ourselves.
Well, her name's Marissa.
All right. I'll see if I can track it down.
Yeah, she's on the Facebook page too. They're called the Bloody Champs.
Wow. The bloody champs.
Trust Ambos to come up with a name like that.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
very cool. So I
I
suppose
see Wayne's in Melbourne.
yes.
Yeah. I just saw him check that too.
So has anyone got a training job at the moment, or are others wanting a job?
I'm wanting a job.
Wanting a job. And Rob said he's
Yeah.
got a job.
Kind of, yeah. I'm hoping to expand my role. At the moment, I am training as an assistant, but I'd like to become able to go out and do the assessments myself.
They're great.
Mm.
Yes, I'm a trainer for nursing, so I'm out on track at the moment with nursing students.
That's good.
So I've been
Wow.
doing that for years, but to actually do this course is much more difficult than doing the actual training.
Yeah.
It's a funny one. It's like one of the harder qualifications to get in against any other qualification in any training package.
Mm.
But the reason
Mm.
is, once you graduate, you can actually train other people and give them qualifications. It's actually a really high risk qualification or a high risk industry. So they've got pretty heavy requirements in some of the units you undertake.
Mm-hmm.
But it's worth its weight in gold. Once you've got it, you'll have it for life.
That's
Well,
I've
then you have to
already-
do the next upgrade.
Well, that's what things first come in.
I've already found it helpful with my son's developmentally delayed. He's in his mid-teens.
Okay.
It's given me a few more tools that I didn't have. I've been able to go and unpack the bloody like the high school training packages and things and see which bits are actually important
Yeah.
myself
Mm.
and work through some of that with him because school teachers don't have time.
Yeah.
Very true.
So definitely, like you say, worth its weight in gold.
Oh, absolutely. I've been training for 8 years now, and this is my 4th RTO that I've worked for. And years ago I used to be a pharmacy assistant, so my life, my career's changed quite a lot.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I know some other trainers like yourself, and you may, I don't know your personal position, but I know a couple of other trainers, and they travel all the time. They carry a high-powered laptop and wireless network hookup, and they do courses like this all the time, and they're all over the place running the course.
Yes. It just depends on your job role. At the moment, I'm in the office because we are obviously online, so that does give me a little bit more flexibility. But previously, I mean, traveling around every week's different. I know there was one week, and I'm based in Sydney, so I went from Monday in Newcastle, Tuesdays at Penrith, Wednesday morning I was all like half day, or most of the day I should say. I was in Sydney CBD, then I had to fly to
Wow.
Queensland because I had a training session in Brisbane on Thursday, fly back to on Friday morning, and then do another training session, which I think was might have been in Wollongong. Can't remember.
Wow.
But it was like that was all in one week, you know. It's
That
like,
is crazy, Michelle.
but that happens, you know. I mean, that's not a typical week, but yeah, there can be a lot of travel if you want it to be.
Mm.
I mean, I used to see it as a bit of an opportunity, you know. You go to a new area, like, oh, what can I
Yeah.
eat for dinner tonight? Or, you know, what can I watch at home? You know?
New place.
That kind of thing. So
Yeah.
it can
Yeah.
be a bit of a holiday
No,
as
that's
well, but it does take its toll after a while. I did that
yeah.
for a while and just went, you know what, I need stability.
I was gonna say the jet lag.
Uh,
Wow.
yeah, it's not so bad with when you're going domestic, but if you're going international, that's a whole nother ball game.
Mm. Mm. True. Well, at least we know what we're getting into.
Look, like I said, it depends on the RTO you work for. Some RTO,
Right.
you know, you're based in the office, you're there 24/7. Others, you know,
Mm.
you might do a lot of training and travel. So it just
Interstate. Yeah.
yeah. Like I'm
Well,
feeling
we'll
lucky
see.
now. If we do workshops, not we don't have any booked at the moment, but you know I
Mm.
can choose when and where we actually deliver them, so I can make sure that that aligns with my family schedule, that kind of thing.
Right. Right. That's good. That's good.
I mean, assessment online, that's another great area. That, you know, once you've got the assessor's skill set, we can get, which we can open up for staff or students if you're wanting.
Mm.
You know, there are assessment jobs available, and like my trainers and others at open colleges, you know, you can have
Mm.
work in your industry and do contract work, you know, at
Mm.
nights or on the weekends to, you know, implement or like boost up your income, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be great. Yeah. Because I'm in accounting.
Okay.
Big transition, yeah. And I have done aged care qualifications as well. So I've been working with the Salvos, but trying to get an accounting job in the Salvos has been a bit challenging. But we do quite a lot of training in-house. So I took the opportunity to get the training. And so I'm just talking with my bosses to see if I can get it transferred to Sydney.
You'll find there's actually a lot of training and development in the banking and financial system or industry.
Uh-huh. Right.
I mean, there's kind of two. Once you've got TAE, there's two ways you can, or two paths you can go down. One is you could
Right.
go down the RTO pathway and work
Yeah.
for an RTO like TAFE or colleges or a community college or whoever else is
Mm-hmm.
out there. Go for it. The other option
Mm-hmm.
is you could become a what's called a T&D, L&D,
Okay.
so training and development, learning development, or human resource development. Um,
Uh-huh.
and so these people train in different industries, but they're actually training in a workplace. They're not using
Okay.
packages. These are unaccredited courses that have been
Mm-hmm.
developed either in-house or by a training group. Um,
Organization, yeah.
yeah, so they're a little bit different. And when you look on Seek, you need to look in two different areas for training roles.
Right.
One you
Yeah.
at actually I might just jump there now. Just
That would be good.
okay. So I'm on Seek.
Mm-hmm.
One thing,
Right.
go to education and training. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and you might look at
Oh,
say
yeah.
teaching vocational, and you might say
Yeah.
right, I want at least say 60K, and you want in Seek,
Mm-hmm.
for example, go Seek and find you know whatever's there.
Mm-hmm.
Alternatively, also have a look at tutoring and workplace training and assessment. That will sometimes also have teaching jobs. Um,
Okay.
The other area to look is in HR. So if you go human resources and recruitment, okay, and have a look at training and development. Okay, this is all that internal organisational training, and you seek in that one, they'll have a whole heap of other jobs. So you have opportunities, you know, when you've got TAE to move into industry.
That's really helpful.
That's cool.
Yes, that's a great site to look at.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you so much.
So,
I'm gonna
can you
get
hear
onto
me?
that.
So I don't know if I'm.
Yes, we can.
I don't know if I'm on. Oh, okay. Great. Thank you. I
Hi,
just wanted
Rosaria.
to. Hi, everyone. I'm from an education background. I used to teach in secondary schools.
Okay.
And then I moved to cultural organisations where, like, I've worked in museums in the State Library in Melbourne. So I'm really keen to look at, so that was that information that you just showed us on Seek. That's sort of the thing I want to do. I want to be more of a trainer,
Sure.
whether it's, you know, consulting through someone and doing training, because I've got, you know, I've been in the education industry for 18 years. So yeah, which is a long time. But I want to move to adult learning, like teaching adults, because I think that will be a good step in the direction.
Yeah.
So it's good. Thanks for that Seek stuff. I was wondering where I would find a job.
We actually have quite a few teachers at open colleges, and the qualification they teach is Cert 3 in education support.
Oh, right.
And so what
There
it's
you go, Rosaria.
so what it's actually teaching is how to become a teacher's aide. So you're going through language and the things you would have learnt in your bachelor's degree or postgrad. You can use that in for education support.
Okay, cool.
Something to think about.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Something to think about.
Oh yeah, something to think about. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think also because that's the thing that I always liked about teaching. It was more the face to face. You know, sort of teaching. You know, obviously, there's always the back part of teaching where you have to develop units and things, which you know you have to do. But I think for me, delivery has always been the thing that has motivated me the most in teaching.
Everyone's a little bit different. You're either really strong in teaching or you're either really strong in assessing. Not until you go through both of those skill sets that you go, okay, I'm this or that. For me, I actually started as an assessor first, and then over time I learnt about the side of things. And the way that we used to teach, oh my gosh, or train, I should say, death by PowerPoint, especially in pharmacy. Like if you say something wrong to a customer, you know, there's a medical situation or a fatality. So, you know, the things I had to drill into these students, and I used to lecture, and because that's what I was taught, and I used to think, gosh, do people actually understand what the hell I'm saying right now? You know, over time, it's like, you know, I've built up that training side of things, and you know, there's lots of different tools and strategies that can be used, and you know, whenever I get asked to do a training session in house, you know, I find that quite exciting because it's like, oh, that's right, I love that feeling, you know, of imparting your knowledge. So you know, online's just as good. But you don't know, there's something just about, you know, plugging back into that face to face that, you know, you think, oh, that's good. That was great. I enjoyed that.
Wow, that's really good. Anyway, I have to tag off as well.
Thanks for attending. Hopefully we'll see you again soon.
Yeah, it's been lovely chatting with you, and I will get onto my work so I can finish it next week.
Sure.
All right, we'll speak soon then.
Okay, bye, Kennedy.
Okay, bye-bye, Michelle.
Does anyone else have any questions before we say goodnight?
I'm just concerned. I'm using the Zeta case study in
Yes.
the 05 assessment.
Yep.
And their focus is the LLN skills.
Yes.
they want the employees to be up to scratch to start their traineeship.
Yes.
If somebody's obviously not got the educational background to start with, how are you going to, is it just by applying the particular units of competency, you're teaching them to just complete those particular competencies?
So
is that all the
you're
are you just trying to get them to be able to complete certain documents in the workplace? Because you can't actually correct their lack of reading or writing or mathematical skills overall.
Yeah.
I mean, if they haven't got those in their childhood, you're not going to be able to bring them right back up from there. Are you just trying to, in the learning program, teach them those particular units of competency, such as completing workplace documents?
Yeah. So that particular case study relates to trainers who are needing LLN to teach people language literacy and numeracy. So they'd actually be teaching like how to read or how to write a book. Like there's actually a training package which I can show you. Where am I? Training.gov, training.gov. There we are. Okay, so if I go to training.gov and let's say I look at literacy. Okay, I actually have, actually I just modify that search, make sure I've only got the current data. I go qualifications, for example. I've got two options from a qualification perspective. If I go units of competency, I've got a few more. What I'm after though is, okay, let's say, let's say I decide that I want to design a program about language literacy and numeracy practice. So, for example, if I look at the qualification descriptor, it's saying it's people who are in the field of adult language literacy and numeracy practice. And in these roles, they're making judgments to plan, deliver, evaluate, and analyse teaching functions. So it actually relates to maybe an LLN teacher or a literacy or numeracy teacher or trainer and assessor. So to me, that may be a qualification you need to look at. But what these people would actually, like if you are a LLN teacher, what you'd actually be teaching people, and I'll show you the training package it relates to. So there's a training package called FSK, Foundation Skills Training. And so if you do have people who are, from another country, so English isn't their first language, or they're having issues with reading, writing, speaking, you name it, we actually can either give them a qualification to build their skills up, or we can enroll them into units of competency. So what we could potentially do, if we know of a student who is struggling with, say, writing, for example, we could enroll them into, say, one of the foundation skills unit, build up their skills in, say, reading or writing or whatever the skill is, and then once they've actually got that level up, then we can enroll them into that actual, whatever the qualification is that they're wanting.
I've taken it from a whole different other perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've used that and said it was a warehousing qualification.
Right.
And within that qualification, some of the units of competency are such as completing workplace documents.
Yeah, and
calculating things.
When that person, once that graduate actually is out in the field, that's potentially what they will be doing. But what you're actually developing is a program to teach them how to teach that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, how to have enough language skills, numeracy skills to be able to do that course.
Yeah. So if someone was being an LLM teacher, they would obviously need to have high level reading, writing, numeracy skills, that kind of thing. And they're actually able to teach that in other people.
Yes. Okay, so I really think I should be using that package FSK.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll just rearrange my whole thing.
It's a great.
Okay.
It's only come out since 2013, so it's only almost 3 years old now.
Yeah.
But they've put it together because they have identified across Australia. We do have lower level language literacy and numeracy, and there are people who went through the school system, got a job. They're still struggling with language literacy and numeracy, and it affects their everyday work.
That's absolutely correct. Yes.
So what they were trying to do is create these units so that if someone's saying, hey, you need to upskill in this, or you need to undertake this type of training, they have that underpinning skill so that they can actually succeed in their studies.
Yes. Yes. I actually train a lot of overseas students,
Okay.
and they've been enrolled into an RTO course.
Yes.
But are they actually assessed before they commence? Because when they come into this course and they're actually out doing their practical, I'm thinking, well, they haven't actually got the ability, due to their language difficulties and all that sort of thing.
Yeah. It
Do
depends.
we let them enroll in these courses?
I mean, it depends on your requirements. Some courses, it might stipulate that they need a certain type of reading, writing.
Yeah.
I know previous RTO of mine, we used to do language literacy and numeracy tests, and those tests were actually checked by somebody before that person would actually start day one of their training. And we'd identify, right, this person has, this particular issue or barrier, and we need to be cognizant of that and maybe change a couple of things to tailor it to them. But each RTO is so different in their operations. You can read the RTO standards; they're very interpretive. They're not. They are black and white in some areas, but in other areas, you're like, well, it could mean this, this, or this. So that's why there is a bit of difference in different RTOs.
Michelle, do you think that's just listening to that? I mean, I don't have a huge, obviously, issues with in the emergency services. It's one of the things that being able to speak the English language and understand it is a bit, but it may, what we find is it's more a terminology type thing. And one of our things that we go for, and if they're not up to standard on day one, let's call it, sometimes we ask them to re-enroll in a later course, like get up to speed with the jargon a little bit.
Okay.
I don't know whether
some of the RTOs let them go through.
Yeah, it just depends because, everyone's different. So the ACSF, which is the Australian Core Skills Framework, says there's actually 5 skills that we all have. One is learning, one is reading, one is writing, one is oral communication, and lastly is numeracy. And so there's 5 skills, and there's actually 5 levels. So you might be an ACSF 4 in, say, oral communication, but you might be a 2 in numeracy. Okay, so you won't be blanket, everything's the same. Everyone has strengths and everyone's got weaknesses. So by undertaking a proper LLN test, you can actually determine where your level is for each of those different skills. So one person might have reading as an issue, whereas someone else might have numeracy. So that's where the FSK kind of comes in, because you can say, right, you need to focus in this area and we need to support you in this area so that they can actually study. Migrants that come...
Sorry, you keep going.
That's all right. Migrants that come to Australia, like refugees and migrants, Australia gives a lot of training to these people so that they're actually able to integrate into society properly. And there's a thing called the Australian Migrant English Program. And a lot of these people might be, we say there's 5 levels, but there's actually another 2. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then there's a -1 and a -2, which goes the other way. So a lot of people who maybe don't speak English at all might be a -1 or -2. But once they get a bit of training in how to speak English, they might move up the rung a bit and go to a 1, 2, or a 3. And by the time they get to a 2 or a 3, they can actually start to work, in society a lot easier. So the government kind of gives additional money and funding to help these people get jobs, and they give them, some additional training. So it's just, something to be aware of, that everyone is a bit different. But if if you're finding that they're not, able to communicate properly and you're actually needing to assess them in something, maybe speak to the RTO and say, right, are we getting the right students for the right course? I'm not sure. Can we conduct maybe an LLN test to see where these students are at and maybe give them some additional training up front before they actually enter into your course?
Yes. Yeah.
Is it possible that this is where the bit where there's the different recognised methods of learning too could come into play? Like,
definitely.
there's obviously different methods of assessing as you can with the different methods of learning.
Yeah. I mean, some people need a tutor, on the side to help them understand, what's being discussed in a classroom or what's in a workbook. Everyone's different.
Yeah. All right, well, I'm going to shoot through. If you two are going to keep going for, I don't know how long you keep talking, but I've got to keep going. My day's pushing 12 hours already.
No worries.
So,
Have a
and
good
I'm on call, so look
Have
after yourselves, and I'll talk to you another time.
Sounds good. Bye, Robert.
Bye. Yeah, thank you, Michelle.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, I'd better go. I've got to go and find some dinner.
Sure. Have a good night.
Yes, thank you.
No worries, Nadine.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, nothing's gone.